Hi there, bishes. This is Renn. Unfortunately, Rue cannot make it today. She was apprehended on Christmas after an altercation that led into an investigation that discovered two male bodies. So, that being said, me being her sister and the closest one to her, and me being gluttonous for true crime and considering a segue into true crime podcasting, I found this to be an incredible opportunity to tell her story with truth and dignity, and to be the first to tell it. Let's get into it. Rue was born in September 1996 in a moderately sized Midwest town. She was born to Janice W. White, who was kind of known to have an intense but fun personality at times. This is how her friends would describe her. Her children would describe her to just be intense. Rue always had a fear and apprehension for the holidays because of the tensity inside her family. The thought of Christmas has always been a fearful, kind of dreading kind of deal for her. The holidays has always been when she had it the hardest. The first Christmas that comes to mind when asking the questions of why. Why was Christmas so hard for her? Why did Christmas become such a dreadful thing that she had to do what she did? The first thing that comes to mind is the Christmas she found out who her real father was. After viewing a SpongeBob program with her sister and seeing commercials pop up, a particular commercial, the Coke commercial that we probably all hold near and dear to our hearts, with the polar bears. They were viewing it, and her sister slept that her father was actually a polar bear. Now, at this time, Rue was 8 years old. She had enough common sense to know and didn't take it to heart, but was really getting annoyed because her sister was relentless and very serious in delivery. It was confusing and annoying all at the same time. When confronting her mom about it, or more or less being the whole, Mom, my sister won't stop. She's annoying, right? Her mom broke down in tears and confessed that in one way or another, her father was a polar bear. Now, not the animal type, right? Let me explain this. So, when our mother was in her mid-30s, she had met a man named Bear that worked as a stalker for speedways. Mainly, he stalked and drove like the truck and the stuff that handled like the Polar Pop stuff. So, mom always kind of nicknamed him and referred to him as Polar Bear. Rue grew up thinking an incredibly different person was her father, and to learn the truth that her father was really this polar bear, it broke her heart. And even though up to that point she already hated holidays because of the yelling and the screaming and the stress that surrounded it, finding this news around Christmas really, really set the stage for just loathing the holiday. When Rue was 12. She went with some friends to the mall. They wanted to be silly and go and talk to a mall Santa, take pictures, you know? The cool teenager thing to do back then was go to the mall. Since you've already seen the stores, because all you do is go to the mall, Christmas time, why not be silly with a mall Santa? So they all took their turns approaching the mall Santa. First, her best friend sat on the mall Santa's lap, and they took pictures, and it was silly, and it was great. Then she decided to go up to the mall Santa and take the left side, and her friend was to take the right. So when the picture was taken, the mall Santa was whispering into Rue's ear about how incredibly tragic and unhinged her eyeliner was. This was too much. This was too much for her to take. She had spent 3 hours as a 12-year-old practicing makeup, trying to get it right, trying to be cool. Her heart was broken. So, as she grew up, She grew up with this heavy, heavy burden, this weight that could never leave her shoulders. With life and with everything, and especially with us holidays, when it came to these two instances. As Rue grew up, she grew up to be a mature and beautiful and brilliant woman with a chip on her shoulders about Santas. And this is the beginning of the story of the Mall Santa Mauler, my sister herself. Into her mid-20s, she became a caretaker for her goddaughter. And this position gave her life. It gave her hope. It gave her love. It even lessened the strands of hatred wrapping around her heart for the holidays. Seeing this young child filled with happiness and joy and excitement during this time helped her do the same. So this Christmas Eve, she decided to go with her godsister and see a mall Santa. They go. First, the goddaughter runs up and sits on Santa's lap and they take a picture. And then her goddaughter says, "Hey, Ruru, please take one with me." So she sits on the left side of mall Santa. And she looks towards the camera and grins. And the small Santa takes this big fat Santa paw and just puts it on her hand and caresses the top of it with his thumb. This is disgusting. No mall Santa should ever feel like groping a hand is ever okay. It boiled inside Rue. This was gross. What kind of behavior is this? So, when people were distracted and kids were changing laps, she noticed that the mall Santa had a cup of Starbucks coffee just right beside him. Don't sue me, Starbucks. This is all alleged. Starbucks, I don't blame you for any of this. Now, this would be a good time to tell you that Rue lived a life of crying and sobbing. And if you guys can at all, like, think back to SpongeBob. He cried so much that, like, it got to the point to where he had to cry into his mouth so he can keep hydrated and then cry out his eyes again and then cry into his mouth. That's the kind of deal that she had going on. And because of that, she always had to keep eye drops with her in her purse because her eyes were just drying out into sponges themselves. So, with this brewing hatred and anger inside of her, initiated into something incredibly devious, while not being watched and not being noticed, she slipped open the Starbucks coffee cup and poured the entire bottle of Visine out. Now, she quickly left the mall after that, goddaughter in tow, and nobody really knows how the rest of that Santa's night went. All we knew is that he was found dead at 4 a.m. in his home. The next day, because she spent so much time with her goddaughter for that whole month. She did a lot of FaceTime with her goddaughter in that month. Christmas Day, she decided to hang out with a group of friends. And ironically, one of these friends was the very same that she went to the mall with when she was 12. They originally were going to just drive around and see what was open, see what they could do. The only thing that was open was their mall in that area. All the restaurants were closed, everything was closed, but this mall was open, and they go inside and they realize most of these shops in this mall are closed. There's like a handful of things that are open, but what is going on is the mall Santa. Now, this is another mall. They went into a bigger city, hang out. They were driving for a while, just trying to see what was open. They end up in the capital of their state and they see that this mall was open, but really all that was really there to do was mall Santa. No, her friends had no clue what had transpired the night before. These friends don't really have an idea for her hatred. The one that was there with her when she was 12, she kind of forgot about it. Rue didn't really bring it up again, and to her, it wasn't, like, very memorable, but she did remember that they did that, not what really happened, and so she's like, "Hey, Rue, let's go. Let's go see the mall Santa. Like, let's have fun. Let's be silly. Let's act like we're kids again." So, Rue, not wanting to look suspicious or bring any kind of attention to herself, she decides the best way to go about this, the best tactic is to just go and get it over with. So she does. She goes over to the mall Santa. She sits by him. She looks him in the face and she realizes that's Polar Bear. That's her true father. She's seen him around. She's seen him in speedways. She knew who this guy was. And she also knew that this guy wanted nothing to do with her life whatsoever. She also knew that this guy lost tabs on who she was, what she looked like when she was aging. He wanted nothing to do with her life and knew nothing about it. So she decides that she's going to get a little cheeky, a little creative. She sits next to Santa, and Santa says, "Beautiful young lady, what would you like for Christmas?" And she goes, "I would like a father that's not a deadbeat mall Santa." And he goes, "What?" He was confused. He had no clue what she was talking about, that she was talking to him. And he goes, "I'm sure your father is not a deadbeat, mall Santa or not." She goes, "He's about to be a deadbeat for sure." She picks up a children's size, like this is like a 4-foot solid nutcracker, and starts beating this mall Santa like fiercely. Like she is getting Polar Bear. She is making sure he does not return to that North Pole. He was brutalized. The cops who came to the scene said it was the worst face bashing they've ever seen in their lives. They described it to be like his face had sunken in the way a soccer ball would when it's slowly deflating, and there was blood everywhere. There was a elf that tried to get involved that was also beaten just because, he was trying to interrupt them. She was never aiming for the elf. I want that to be known, to be heard, to be felt. She did not mean to kick that elf's ass. She never meant to beat that elf, but she did. The elf did survive serious injuries, but doctors say he's going to be okay, but he will walk with a limp and have a missing ear for the rest of his life. I'm sure there's some plastic surgery for that. They were unable to reattach it. I'm not sure what his face will look like in the future and if it will be like even or not, but I am praying for him. She was apprehended at the scene. The police arrived and she was still beating the mall Santa to death, even though he was already dead. And she told the press while being taken from county jail to a prison to await her court date that she doesn't regret a goddamn thing. And she will come after all the mall Santa bishes. No cap. So that's the story. That's the story of the mall Santa Mauler. I am being and will continue to be a fierce advocate. She was very misunderstood. And if she would have gotten help for her seasonal hatred very early on, and if she had a family that was stable, this could have never happened. I mean, if she didn't have a deadbeat polar bear dad, this would have never happened. And I am not one for victim blaming, okay? I am not victim blaming whatsoever, but he deserved that shit. I would have done it. If I was into dark magic or whatever would bring this guy back to life just to maul him again with a nutcracker, I would. Maybe I would just fill a bag full of elves on the shelf and just beat him with that. Maybe I would. I feel like I would. So thank you for listening. Thank you for your sympathy at this time. Beyond these details, our family is requesting space and time to gather ourselves. I will not be able to say much more than that as we gear towards trial. So, thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. And remember, We're in this together, Bishes. And if you need me to maul a Santa for you, I will. I will. In Ruth's place. Because that's what she would have wanted. Thank you, guys. Remember, I love you, Bish. I will never, ever stop loving you, Bish.
Wait. Stop. Did you really think the episode was gonna end like that? Without me making an appearance first? In prison or not, I am dedicated. And I'm gonna get it done. So firstly, I want to say, everything in this episode is alleged, and I don't think she said that enough. And that's really stressing my lawyer out. So to clear the air, everything is alleged. Until proven. And yes, okay, the cops may have walked in on me hitting that Santa over and over and over and over. But that doesn't matter, okay? That doesn't matter. I'm not here to talk about that. So, as a little update, my attorney thinks that I should be out by New Year's, which is great. As long as I have good behavior. Now, I did happen to maybe kinda sorta get into 13 prison fights so far. 14 if this bitch Rhonda doesn't shut up behind me. But I'm hoping they can see past that. You know, I was put into a position and I needed to defend myself, and that's all I'm gonna say about it. I also may or may not have found the love of my life in prison. Which, I mean, that's not too crazy, right? I feel like that it's happened before. It's happened before. I know it has. Who is that? Who is that serial killer that had the wedding? The wedding in prison? I don't know. Anyways. Yeah. So, you guys might be planning my wedding. Her name is Sandra. She's my bunkmate. We're not technically supposed to talk about why other people are in there, but between me and you, Bish, she murdered an entire family. Not her family. I want to put that out there. It wasn't her family, but it was an entire family and their goldfish. Which the goldfish part really has me fucked up. That's the part that I'm kind of like, Sandra, you need to get your shit together. But other than that, she's fantastic. She promised me she wouldn't murder any more goldfish, and I'm gonna trust her. I'm gonna trust her. So, we might have a Bish Dish wedding coming up. So look forward to that. Mark your calendars. Ruin Sandra forever. I actually got that tattooed on me. Ruin Sandra forever. It's on my butt. But other than that, prison life is pretty dull. Every day is kind of, you know, the same old gross prison food. My goal was to get in here and get fit as fuck, you know, make it look like I got a BBL, but I don't see that happening with the short period of time I'm hopefully gonna be in here. And I just want to let it be known that orange is definitely not my color. I asked if maybe they had a green one or a pink one or a black one. Nope. Denied. That's what they said to me. Denied. Okay. Shut up. It's like they don't know how skilled I am with a nutcracker. So yeah, I'll be getting out, fingies crossed, by New Year's, ready to unpack more trauma than ever. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say, bishes. Oh, and one more thing. Did this bish really think that she could end the podcast using my line? So, we're just gonna forget about that whole situation that happened. And here I am, in prison, pouring my whole heart out to you. I ain't never gonna stop loving you. Bish.